Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of MTG Arena. Today I'm going to play a little bit more of the Sultai deck that I converted over to Historic. It's been doing pretty well for me. I've been pretty close to Diamond 1, working my way up to Mythic. Overall, I think I'm 5 and 2 with the deck since I've been playing it off stream. But before we get into that, what I want to talk about just briefly, for any of those that didn't know, for Zendikar Rising that's coming up, you can take a look at these planeswalkers. First, I want to talk about Jace Mirror Mage. It's a 3-drop planeswalker, so that always gets my attention. They tend to be pretty good. Interesting part is they put a kicker on a planeswalker. Now, I would say I'm not the biggest fan of the kicker mechanic. I think it's okay, but definitely not my favorite. So for 1 blue, we get a 4 loyalty planeswalker, so that's already a big +1 there, so that's nice. When Jace Mirror Mage enters the battlefield, if Jace was kicked, create a token that's a copy of Jace Mirror Mage, except it's not legendary, and its starting loyalty is 1. So for 5 mana, we can get 2 copies of Jace Mirror Mage. Its ability state +1, you scry 2, or use 0, draw a card and reveal it. Remove a number of loyalty counters equal to the revealed card's converted mana cost. So really what you could do, say, is like you do play it on turn 3. You can +2 and then set your draw for the next 2 turns if you want to 0 Jace. So you put a card you want on top followed by like a land, and then you reveal the land and draw it for free, and it doesn't cost any loyalty to Jace. Jace is at 5 loyalty in a decent situation. If you go ahead and play it for 5 mana, you can scry for 2 with Jace and 0 with the token copy if you really need the card that's there and you want to 0 it out and draw it right away. That's something that you can do as well. Or you can just +2 and scry 4 and just set your next couple draws. Like you have a lot of possibility there. So overall, I think it's a pretty decent card. Now, I'm not knowing what the format's going to look like. It may be a lot better or a lot worse. I'm not sure, but I do think it's an okay planeswalker for the 3 mana cost. The other card to talk about is Nahiri. So we have a 4-cost, 2 colorless mountain plains, 4 loyalty planeswalker in Nahiri, Heir of the Ancients. So you can +1 her, create a 1/1 white core warrior creature token, and you may attach equipment you control to it. That's pretty nice. It comes down, it defends itself, and you can pump it up if you're playing some sort of equipment deck. -2, you look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a warrior or equipment card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. So, if you cast Nahiri for 4, it lets you search and find something that is useful for you. So that's pretty nice. It's kind of similar to Tamiyo, how Tamiyo has her plus and you kind of search for a card name. Good ways of looking through your deck if you need to, and I'm assuming if you're playing her in a deck with equipment, you're probably playing a solid amount of creatures. It is kind of specific to a warrior, but I'm sure that there are plenty of those that you can make work in the deck. Also, you can come down and -3 Nahiri. Heir of the Ancients deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to twice the number of equipment you control. So right now there's one of those equipment or enchantment decks that are going around in Historic. You could play something like that, and here you could potentially just come down and wipe somebody out. But it'd be a little bit slow in those decks. Specifically, those decks win very quickly on their own without a 4-drop Nahiri needed. So some interesting stuff I'm sure you could do there. I'm not as big of a fan of playing the Boros colors as I am blue, so I'm a little bit more partial to blue planeswalkers. So I do hope that the format shapes up where I can actually play Jace. It's been a while since I've played with a Jace planeswalker that I thought was good. So, and hey, we're playing Sultai. You can do jam Jace in there. Don't think it's right, but we could. And since the last time we played, I've just been tweaking the deck. The format's kind of mix and match a little bit since they banned Field of the Dead. I have been running into a decent amount of the sacrifice decks and the Rakdos kind of graveyard play decks. I'm not terribly matched up against the sack deck post board. I'm definitely not proactive against them in game 1 or the sack deck. Those are the 2 decks that I have a little bit of trouble with. For that, we have 3 Grafdigger's Cage in here. I was honestly considered even just going to 4 because they just shut down those 2 decks so hard. Shuts down your Bolas' Citadel, shuts down any Croxes, things like that. Now it is counterplay with Uro, so typically if I bring in Grafdigger's Cage, I'm cutting some number of Uros. I don't cut all of them because it is a 3-drop that we have access to that also gains this life, draws this card, and puts a land on the battlefield. So even for casting it for 3 at immediate value, it's still pretty good. That being said, we also do have like a Casualties of War for late game if we ever wanted to even remove our Grafdigger's Cage to bring an Uro back. And I also added the Ugin into the main as like a extra win condition. I cut down to 2 Casualties of War. I added 2 Legion's End. I'm trying this out a little bit because of like the graveyard play decks that we have, and these a little bit more aggressive decks are kind of what can get underneath. Initially the deck was running like 3 of these and like 3 or 4 Thought or Agonizing Remorse. So since I replaced the Remorse with Thoughtseize, the Remorse, there's an argument for it to be good because it does exile it out of their hand. I figure between Thoughtseize being able to play on 1 and Thought Erasure on 2, we have a good way to disrupt the opponent's hand. Legion's End can take care of the 1 and 2 drops that they play. It also removes extra copies from their graveyard, so it thins their graveyard out for things like Croxa. It also removes like those, it's the 1/1 lifelink that if it's played from the graveyard, it becomes a 5/5 instead if you exile it. So like it works well against those things. Just all around a decent removal spell. It is sorcery, but I mean we're tapping out most of the time anyway, so it just plays in the deck. Other than that, I didn't change anything in the main. We have 3 Liliana's Triumphs now. I think that's a little bit new addition there. I had put an Ulamog in during the last episode just as an additional win condition. Now there is some work that needs to be done in the sideboard and some tweaking that can be done in the main, but so far the list has been pretty well-rounded. I do think I want to cut down on the Nisses at some point. But that's the deck that I'm going to be playing today, and we're going to run a few games, and hopefully we keep on winning. Right into game 1. Yes, we take the play. Alright, so we don't have any black mana. This isn't great. We can't really do anything in our hand. We can't even cast Thought Erasure to try to get out of this, so I am going to mulligan here. This is better. I'm going to put back Casualties of War. It's just really slow, and it's not going to do anything compared to our Explorer. We could cast an early Crisis or an Uro. I'm going to lean on Passage early. I'll grab myself a Forest. Okay. So that didn't work out in our favor. That's why there's an argument to like not play Fabled Passage first, and instead either lean on one of the tap lands, because this provides us all access to all of our mana colors, so it's potential that that is a more correct option. So we want to Thought Erasure and see what our opponent's up to. Might have a counter spell of some sort, but just want to see what shenanigans they have going on. Alright, Uro, they have a Naturalized Censor and a Teferi. Uro, I don't mind if they draw and play a card. They have a counter spell. Nothing crazy that I want to do. If they Uro next turn, they're not going to try to counter my Uro, which is fine. I do think, well, I guess they could try to censor my Uro if they wanted to. I think we're just going to take Teferi. It's like the biggest threat that we have to deal with. I'll keep a land on top here, just because we do have an Uro. Okay, so they got rid of Censor, so there goes their 3+1 idea. Probably wanted to make sure they hit another land. So opponent's just going to hold for that. That's totally fine. I'm okay not playing my Uro this turn. That's fine. Grab another black source in case I wind up hitting a casualties at some point. So unless the opponent draws exactly, okay, they got rid of Censor too. So unless they drew exactly Counterspell, we can Crisis for 4. We can also bring back Uro, which is fine. Yep. So there's a chance the opponent drew Counterspell, but we're going to take a shot that they didn't after we attack. We're just going to hope that they didn't draw. Either way, we still get to draw 3 cards, so that's totally fine. If they have a counter, can't really do anything about it. Opponent's got counter here. Okay, so they do have the counter there. Resolve Teferi is an issue, just because I don't have a way to deal with Teferi. Chaining Uros, alright. So we're looking for like a Casualties of War, would be great. Wow, they had exactly what they needed. This way we can at least put pressure on Teferi. We drew a Casualties of War, which is great. Now it's kind of awkward. The opponent can plus Tama for whatever, or minus for a counter spell, guaranteeing that they have a neutralize or something in their hand. Alright, so they found the Shark Typhoon to block the Krasis. So we still have 6 lands for Casualties of War if they counter this. We're going to do this case if he wants to trade for the land. So we want the opponent to Shark Typhoon, hopefully for as much as possible. Because then we can Casualties of War, kill the Tameo, kill them, destroy their Castle of Antris. So we got rid of the big problem Teferi there. We have 1 Crisis left in the deck. The Uru. We use 2 Wrath of Gods, 3 Wrath of Gods. Two Neutralize are gone. So I imagine that they at least have 1 more. Okay. call. So now they have a commit to memory in there. There's Teferi. They're holding up neutralized. Like, one of the best things that we could wind up doing is hitting a land, or not a land, sorry, but hitting like a Thoughtseize or something to that effect. Okay, excellent. So that's exactly what we wanted. Hopefully they don't have 2 counters, otherwise they'll just get mega punished. Oh, yeah, damn, I totally forgot about her. Well, that's very unfortunate. Every time. I think she gets me every single time with that. Okay. So opponent is going to counter this. So hopefully the opponent doesn't hit a counter spell. Maybe they do because they see the Nissa coming, but I'm pretty sure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, if we resolve Nissa, we can then cast the Ugin. So we can lead with the Nissa, hoping that they don't have a counterspell. If they do, they hit her. But we really want to resolve Ugin, because Ugin's going to let us just exile the board. Thought Distortion definitely comes in this matchup. I hope they play that. So make sure we have enough for Nissa still. We do. Alright, so they don't have a counter spell. So we're throwing away our Nissa here, but That's a nice find by the opponent. So opponent's down to 6 cards. But if they have like a commit to memory, then it'd be great. Question is, can they win? So opponent's down to 3. Activating Narset puts him at 2. Forgot about that. We're just playing hastily now. I get stuck on some of their passives. It's not great. It's twice I got hit one game. But we'll know next game. That's the important thing. Alright, so opponent's going to be able to memory. Yep. Alright. So we got this game. Got beat this game. We didn't get this game. So we bring in Thought Distortion. We bring in the Narsets. Ulamog are also good. Legion's End doesn't do anything for us. Extinction Event's okay. It's not great. Probably just cut all those out actually. And probably cut down on like a Nissa. Something like this is probably correct. We have our Thoughtseize, we want our Thought Erasures, a little bit of ramp. Uros are still good, Narset's great. Teferi will help us filter and fill through. Nissa for the ramp. Thought Distortion is really what I want to hit. If we can like ramp into a Thought Distortion and just kind of bust their hand, you know, it's the idea. That's kind of my strategy against these control matchups is like typically we don't have that much stuff that if they counter is like a big deal. So if we can just ramp up to Thought Distortion and just kind of wipe out both their graveyard and their hand, that's fantastic. Rather than playing like negates and sensors and whatnot. So not as fast as I like, but it's still good. I like to see like a Thoughtseize turn 1. Or at least a Thought Erasure. So that works out. We're going to go ahead and just play this while the opponent's tapped out. It's kind of clear that we're not playing. Okay, that's what we wanted. Alright, so we're 3 lands away from hitting the card that I need to hit. Excellent. So opponent might cast Uro. Otherwise, like neutralize or something, they might hold up, which is just going to get beat up by Thought Distortion. And then we're pretty much free to play like Nissa and Teferi and everything like that. It's a nice thing about them not playing black. I don't have to worry about my hand getting disrupted. Okay, they got a Ooze. ECD into Dovin's Veto is good. And then we have Ugin this turn. So unless they drew, they can't even draw a neutralize, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, and that's why we bring in Thought Distortion against control matchups. It's just pretty brutal. Yeah, I don't think I changed much here. I think this is generally the setup I want to run, so let's just run it back. Looks like the opponent feels the same way. Let's hope for a pretty similar start. It's going to be a little bit harder than being on the play. Thoughtseize turn 1 is good. So we're going to keep this. Could play the Triome, but I just really want to get that turn 1 Thoughtseize, see what the opponent has, and try to play around what their hand looks like. Went down to 6, that's good. Okay, let's take the search here. If opponent wants to hold up Censor, they can. It's totally fine, I'm just going to play a Triome anyway. So unfortunately we don't have the ramp or anything to take advantage of the opponent's really slow hand, but we did just draw that, which is absolutely fantastic. So it's not as great against opponent right now, being that they have 4 cards in hand, but unless they're really in a hurry to start rifling off like Shark Typhoon and Censor, without the ramp, the downside is if they have like a Teferi or something like that, that we can't take full advantage of that. So if we do 6, we have exactly enough for Censor. So I'm going to bank on the fact that they didn't draw a neutralize. So they can Shark Typhoon for, what, 4? So we're not going to attack. There's no need to attack here. We can just dump down a large Crisis next turn. But I think it'd be a prime spot to Thought Distortion. Okay, so here, I'm just going to go ahead and Thought Seize the opponent. Get rid of that Wrath of God. So we have 13 mana, so we're going to cast this for 12. Well, 13 minus 2, we have 11, so we're going to cast this for 10. So we hit what we need to hit. If they draw like a Wrath of God or something, we get kind of punished, which they have mana to cast still. Okay, it's probably minus on the Crisis. Interesting. So we want to see what our little pesky opponent's up to. So I have one green source right now, right? Besides this? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and rifle off and explore. I'll grab a forest with said explorer. We have 6. So, need more green mana. And there we go. So, not the cleanest of victories, but we got there. take the coins. Let's fire another one up. Alright, next opponent. Yes, we like that play. Yeah, against an unknown opponent, Legion's End and Explore is okay. Alright, looks like opponent might be on something similar. So we have every Fabled Passage in the world. It'd be great if I had like an Uro and filling up my graveyard here. Okay, so we're probably playing a little mirror match here. So unfortunately for us, we don't have anything else to do. We just have tons of lands right now. So the opponent can pull ahead here. Yep. So falling this far behind with nothing to cast, we probably don't come back from this. What we do is we're going to cycle out of here. Right in another Triumph. So at their end step here, I'm going to crack these passages. Yeah, there's the Uro. I want to get some of the basics out of my deck before I don't have basics in my deck. I'm going to take a blue. And we are just hitting every land in the world. Every land. I get people trying to run Censor. It's a pretty good card, but I'm just not a fan of it. I think that it misses more than it hits. I was running Cultivate. I took it out for Historic. It's just kind of slow for Historic. You have Growth Spiral and Explore. You don't need Cultivate. Yeah, this is crazy, guys. We've not drawn a single non-land card this entire game. Yeah, that's probably going to be game. This is incredibly poor shuffling by the shuffler. Yeah, okay, so we're just going to scoop out of this. That was the most unrealistic flood that I've ever seen. So Legion's End is not going to do anything. Extinction Event most likely not. We do want those Thought Distortions, those Narsets, the Ugin and Ulamog again. We'll cut a Nis out here too. Seems to be a pretty good package here. Opponent sideboarded quickly or not at all. It is something I seem to have noticed playing more in Arena. Okay, like they give me a hand that I kind of want, but no lands, so can't keep that. Can keep this. I'm going to put back to Fairy. I want to keep with both Uros so that way I can chain some Uros together. And try to generate some card advantage since I don't yet have any. So, small misplay on my part thinking ahead there, knowing that I can draw Thoughtseize for 1 mana and that I'd have an additional mana available. I could have shocked in the breeding pool instead of tapping the swamp. The good news here is that I can Thoughtseize the opponent and at least try to take out whatever they're going to do with like 5, 6, 7 mana, or whatever the case may be. So, we're going to go ahead and just get that out of the way. Okay, so we're not going to let them draw any cards. That's pretty clear. Could have thought of Razor first as well and surveilled that to the bottom, hoping to hit a land with Growth Spiral. We're just getting stuck on the 4 lands here, which is not great. It's absolutely getting hammered here. So first game we hit all lands, and second game we hit no lands. Again, unless opponent just bricks into lands like we did last game, we're probably just going to get buried here. Opponent's got enough in the yard to fill it. So opponent's 3 cards away. So unless opponent wipes the board. Oh, they found an approach early. Oh, wow. How unfortunate. We've had the win next turn. Fortunately, we don't really have a way to interact with that. I suppose if we ran Tail's End in the sideboard, you could counter the triggered ability. Well, it's on the stack. The deck, I haven't been seeing too much of it. If it really emerges to be like a deck that I'm seeing consistently, I'll consider putting something in there to deal with it. This is not the hand we want to see against an unknown. Like, it's average. Okay, at least we have ramp. We have removal. I can keep one of the triomes and cycle it away if we get stuck on lands again. So we're going to keep 6. Just going to put back the passage here. We'll go. Another casualties. Not necessarily what I want to see here, but alright. It's a good card. I don't know how long Nissa would stick around, being that we're playing against Grixis. Okay, and they have Thoughtseize. So even less likely to stick around. Looking for a bedevil, I assume. So I don't want to discard the only card in my hand, and that's why I'm holding that. Opponent looking for a big bolus, maybe? If they have little bolus, then we're going to get punished with his casualties. So we're going to crisis for 5. If opponent counters, we still get the trigger, which is fine. We're not playing the land this turn around. That way I can +1 and get rid of the breeding pool. Opponent can definitely flip search now. But unless the opponent removes a creature or puts some pressure on the board, they're dead next turn. Yep. Now we could have played Uro here first, but we didn't want to. Maybe opponent has another extinction event. But, yep. Depending what else opponent does here, I can just chain Nisses and hit him for 9 next turn. Okay. A third extinction event, maybe? Opponent's got it all. They can activate search or play the last card. Well played, opponent. You're staying in it. Well, land's good for us. This is not good for us. Drawing cards, this is not good for us either. Yeah, they're going to draw 3 cards with 4 mana untapped. So that's enough for a little bolus, which stops us from winning this following turn. I don't like to say good game prematurely, honestly. I just feel like it's bad to do so. Yeah, so I just typically don't. It's not to be rude or anything like that. I've played for a long time in person, so I get to congratulate the person on the victory or whatnot afterwards. But I just don't like to say it prematurely. It's like, hey, good game. It's happened a couple times. People say good game thinking they win, and then I come down and win the next turn. So I just feel like it's putting some bad energy out there. I don't want to do it. Legion's End is not fantastic against them. Extinction Event, I don't really need. Casualty War, fine. These are all fine. I'll actually bring in an Aether Gust, and I'm going to cut one Explorer. I could have brought in Enter the God Eternals as well to deal with the 4-drop boluses, or even, it's probably the best option. Puts a threat on board while giving me life and removing their creature. But I think we have enough other things that we can handle this. So not a bad hand, but it's also really slow for what we're playing against. So I'm going to mulligan that away. I kind of got punished here, keeping... I could keep this if I hit a land. I'm going to get really greedy. We're up on game. We're going to put Teferi back because we're very far off from casting that. And we just hope that we hit a land. If we don't, that's on me for keeping a really greedy 6. Which opponent now knows that I kept a very greedy hand. Alright, so at least we made our normal land drop. We didn't get ahead like we wanted to, but we definitely made our normal land drop. Oh, yep, we don't have blue. That makes sense. Now we do. Alright, we have another card that's pretty solid. We just need the mana to get there. We're doing okay. We're doing okay for keeping a 1-lander. I would probably take Thought Distortion, but that's just me. So I'm not going to animate a blue source, that way if he gets rid of it, I still have blue since I'm so low on blue. Seems right. So if we actually grab a blue source, we can Uro here. And we drew into Thoughtseize, which is great. So we can peek at their hand. so let's just take a peek. Just get rid of both of those. Increase this for 2, 3, 4, 5. Held onto the Triome, that way if they do make us discard Casualties of War with like a bolus or something, we have a way to remove it. Okay. Alright, so we got there. I think we went 2-1, so not too bad. One game away from Diamond 1 again. I was there last night, late night, barely lost my matchup, but doing a slight push to Mythic. The season's over soon, so I'm not really actively trying to get into Mythic. It doesn't really do too much. We do get a little bit better rewards, but I believe... Yeah, season ends in 3 days, so it is possible if we can get up into Mythic for the rewards, that'd be cool. But hopefully we can. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. The deck's still much work in progress, and there's other decks we could be playing, but I've been winning a fair amount with it. It's definitely tweakable. There's a lot of variations and ways you can go with the deck. If you like the deck, or at least the shell of it, play around with it, see what you like, and hopefully you win some matches. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.